Your not enough is actually more than enough. And in verse 2, Elijah said to her, what shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have of value in your house? And she said, your maidservant has nothing in the house. Now, I would like to just pause right there because I have to put myself in this woman's shoes, because here she is going to the man of God for help. And immediately as she goes to him, he goes, what do you want me to do? What do you have in your house? And I have to honestly put some humanity in this, because if I were this woman, I would be like, do you think I would be coming to you if I had a Porsche in the backyard? Like, do you think I would be coming to you if I had something extremely valuable that I could sell so that I didn't have to worry about my kids being sold into slavery? Do you think, like, if I could fix this on my own, you think that I would be here knocking on your door, asking you for you to help me? Like, do you think that would happen? But still, it doesn't stop the man of God from asking the question, what of value do you have in your house? And your maidservant says this, nothing in the house. And it's nearly like an afterthought, except it's nearly like she goes back and remembers, and she's searching through her house thinking, do I have anything of value? And she comes to this cabinet, and there's a small jar of oil, and she says, I just have this small jar of olive oil. I just have this small little thing. But what is a small jar of oil when there's such a great need? But what she had forgotten was that a small amount may not be enough in her hands, but a small amount is more than enough in God's hands. Can I tell you that a small amount of oil in God's hands turns into a debt-canceling miracle? A few loaves and a few fish is not enough to feed a lot of people, but in God's hands, it's enough to feed 15,000 people and to take up 12 baskets of leftovers. Can I tell you that whatever you think is not enough is more than enough in the hands of God? You may think there's no way that it can work out, there's no hope for it, but can I tell you that when I put it in the hands of a miracle working God, all of a sudden it becomes more than enough. Can I tell you that it's not about the perfection of what you have? Instead, it's about the placement of what you have. It's when I take what I have and I place it in the hands of the miracle working God. If you are in a season of lack in any area of your life, no matter where it is, I want to ask you this question: what do you have? Not what do you need. I want to ask you, what do you have? See, sometimes we get so focused on the need that we miss the seed. We get so focused on the problem that we miss the solution, that God is wanting to work on our behalf. What do you have? God will never ask us to use what we don't have, but God always expects us to use what we do have. What you'll see this over, what's in your hand? What do you have? Like, you see these miracles that happen in the Bible over and over again, and we miss the fact that God is often asking us, what is in your hand, or what do you have in your life? What can you use? What seed can you sow? I have faith, Pastor. We'll keep standing in faith for your healing. I have a seed that I can sow. We'll sow that seed into somebody else's life. My marriage is a mess, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I have a phone number for a marriage counselor. We'll pick up the phone and call. Never think that God cannot do a miracle with what you're calling mundane. You may think that it's not enough, and you may think that it's not big enough, but I'm telling you that God can take your not enough and make it more than enough. If you will just place it in His hands and say, God, I'm going to step out and I'm going to believe, God, that you are more than able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that I could ask, think, or imagine. Sometimes God does great things for you, but I've found that God often wants to do great things with you. See, God wants you to participate in the provision. God wants you to be bold enough to believe that He's able. See, God isn't moved by need. God is moved by faith. And I know that you think, well, God sees my need. No, God's moved by faith. And we have to realize that God is able, but we have to step out in faith and believe that He can do it. Number two, you need to know this, that give God you're not enough. You need to give God you're not enough. Realize that God can take your not enough and make it more than enough. This widow was so focused on all that she had lost that she had forgotten what she had. And I know, friend, that what you lost is painful. But what you have is still powerful. What you lost was heartbreaking. But what you have is still powerful. God is so good at filling empty spaces. In fact, I'll say this, that God has been filling empty spaces since the beginning of time. He says this, that He looked out into the darkness and He saw the earth and it was without form and void, and God spoke. And I just want you to know that God is going to speak to some empty spaces today. That what you think is void, what you think has no life, that God is going to speak life in, and He's going to work a miracle on the inside of your life. The miracle is God's part, but the obedience is your part. And I know this, that whenever I'm faithful to pour, that God is faithful to provide. Number three, get ready for the excess. See, you got to prepare yourself for the miracle. You got to get ready for what God is going to do. You got to prepare yourself in advance for how God is going to move and what God is going to do in your life. The man of God tells this woman, I want you to go to your neighbors, and I want you to ask all of your neighbors for empty vessels. And again, I have to put myself in this situation and in this lady's shoes, because here she is telling her sons, hey, sons, I need you to go over and I need you to ask Mildred for an empty vessel. I need you to ask Bonnie for an empty vessel. And can you imagine these young people showing up at their neighbor's door and knocking on the door? Hey, Mildred, my mama wants to know, can we borrow your empties? What? Yeah, you don't have enough. What are you asking me for empties for? Hey, Mary, yeah, Mama's wanting to know if we can borrow your empties. Mary had to be thinking, like, I've seen the foreclosure letter. I've seen the banks coming around. Like, I know that you're in a bad situation and you've got some bad things happening in your life. You don't need empties. Empties are of no value to you. Like, let me see if I can find something. No, we don't need your something. We need your nothing. Mom said to come get your empties. And what this woman was doing in this moment is I'm preparing myself for the miracle that I'm believing that God is going to work. I'm believing that God is going to do. And so I'm going to surround myself with what seems impossible. I'm going to surround myself with things that are empty, because I know that I cannot fill it on my own, but God is more than capable of doing what He said that He would do. Can you imagine knocking on the doors? Yeah, my mom said, I need to get your empties. And I would just say this, that sometimes you have to be obedient in the ridiculous if you ever want to see the miraculous. See, you gotta be willing to step out on water, Peter, if you ever want to walk on water. You gotta be willing to say, God, I believe that you can. I'll walk around a building or a wall 7 times because I know this, that God, you are able. Can I tell you that a sling and a stone when you're facing a giant seems ridiculous until all of a sudden it becomes miraculous. And maybe you're sitting there going, man, I don't have enough. I've just got this small amount. Can I tell you that God is able to fill your empties? And you're going to surround yourself with excess. Like, I'm preparing myself for the miracle. I'm getting ready for it. No, I know what the doctor's report says, but I'm telling you that my God said. I don't care what you said. My God said that I am healed.